Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior Design Evangelist here at Adobe, and I hope you're all doing well on this Wednesday morning, afternoon, or evening. My morning has been eventful. Technology just wasn't working for me today. My streaming software just spun and spun and spun. My camera wouldn't connect. Nothing was working, but thankfully, we're here. We made it. Hope you're all well and excited for another Photoshop challenge. If you're tuning in live, let me know in the chat who you are and where you're tuning in from. We've got Parsa and Kevin and Emily and Voodoo Val, Bruce, Barbara, General Kenobi, Stony, Patrick. Great to see all of you. If anyone is in Toronto or Pittsburgh, I'll be heading there in just a few weeks for our Create Now events. So head over to our Create Now website. Maybe Val can put a chat or a link in the chat. And I'd love to see all your friendly faces, especially in Toronto, my hometown. Can't wait to go back. All right, let's go ahead and hop over to my screen. Boop. And we're going to get going with today's challenge. So we're going to be diving into some Photoshop plus Firefly workflows. And if I'm not mistaken, Anika from Toronto, come to the Create Now event. I think it's on September 12th, if I'm not mistaken. But it'll be fun. It'll be great. Can't wait to go. All right. If I'm not mistaken, my words are obviously mistaken. But I think I covered a little bit of this during one of the other challenges a few weeks ago or last month or 2 months ago. I don't know. Some time in the past, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into this, including, as Carol pointed out, materials. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be designing, and I say designing because designing in quotes, because it's going to be somewhat basic, and we're going to bring it over to Firefly, and we're going to make it look fancy. Thank you, Jack, for posting that link. We have a lot of Create Now events all over the country. We have some overseas as well, and I'm going to be doing Pittsburgh, then Toronto, and I think, it's not confirmed yet, but I think Vancouver as well, beginning of October, which is wonderful. All right, so what I want to do here is I want to start with something pretty basic, stylizing text. And to start that, we're going to go over to our text tool, shortcut key T, and we're going to click, and we're just going to type out the letter P. Let me grab my move tool, P for Pinsky, make it larger. But of course, can't see the text because it's the same color as the background. Not good. You know what else is not good? This typeface. What is it? Myriad Pro. Not the best, right? So we're going to switch it up. I'm going to switch it up to something like Ducky. This is a fun typeface, right? That's a bit better. Let me scale that down. Now, you might be asking yourself, where do I get fun typefaces like this? All I use is Comic Sans. Let me save you from the misery that is Comic Sans. Sydney's coming. Yes, Sydney will be helping run the event in Pittsburgh and Toronto. Sydney's great. Everyone's great. But yeah, I'd love to see all of you. So, Adobe Fonts, fonts.adobe.com. Go over to Browse All, and you can go ahead and find some really fun typefaces. So here, I'm just going to enter the letter P because that's what we're running with. And over to the left, you can start sorting it. Maybe we'll do something like funky, right? Look at that. These are some fun typefaces. There's Ducky. And what's really cool is with this technique, the funner the typeface, the better your results are going to be. Comic Sans ought to be enough for anyone, indeed. All right, so assuming you went through this whole process, you synced everything over, back over to Photoshop, we typed out a letter. Doesn't matter the colors. I'm really not concerned. The color, the background could be bright yellow and the letter could be bright orange. Probably not, don't do that, but you can, right? The colors really don't matter. The structure is what matters. Now, what you're going to do from here is you're going to save this out on your computer. File, export as, or you can save it. There's like 1,400 ways to save something. You can even right click over here and then export as or export as PNG. I should do like a whole hour-long masterclass on just saving things from Photoshop. And then one on selecting things. There's a million ways to do that. But once you've saved it out to your computer, and I should mention that in this particular artboard here, it's 4:3, so 1200 by 1600. There's a few different aspect ratios that Firefly supports, but keep that in mind. Now, over to Firefly. What I'm going to do to start is I'm going to start by typing out something like the letter P, I'm going to put it in brackets so that it can't, or quote, so that it recognizes that. Let's say made of stone and moss on a black background, right? I'm going to run that. Now, obviously, this probably won't look anything like the letter that we typed in Photoshop, because it, at this point, has zero idea what we're actually trying to get out of Firefly. But honestly, that looks pretty darn good, right? That looks fancy. I love this, but I want it in the ducky typeface. So what we're going to do a few things. We're going to first switch the aspect ratio to our portrait 4:3 or 3:4 at least, right? And then we're going to make sure it's on photo. Now we want to upload an image. We can either click on upload image, or we can go ahead and just drag an image directly in. So here I have my export, and I'm going to boop, pop it right in there under the composition reference. It's going to make sure I have the rights to use that image. I do. Now I want to take the strength up to 100%. Let me explain this a little bit. If you keep the strength around the middle or lower, Firefly is going to have a bit more flexibility. So it's going to look at the structure and it's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to mess with it a little bit. But if you take the strength all the way up to 100, there really isn't any value. It's basically like 100, 50, 0-ish. It's going to really try to follow the structure. And in this case, it's that typeface. So I'm going to keep it there. And then I'm going to also turn on the hyper-realistic effect, just because I have found for photorealistic outputs, it helps quite a bit. Now with that, I'm going to press generate, and it's going to generate a brand new one, different aspect ratio, with our ducky typeface, which is what I'm really excited about. Let's see what that looks like. Ooh, there we go, right? We've got some now stone and moss with the ducky typeface, which is really cool. But we can take this to an even another level. Even another? Is that English? I don't know. If you go back to the Photoshop document, I did include some materials that you can download, export to your computer, and use in this project. But you're probably thinking, one, how do I actually create these materials? And how do I use them in this project? Well, let's say this one over here, right? You can kind of see here, we have some Firefly prompts in there. And this one here, if I double click on this, we basically have this prompt. I'm going to actually copy this prompt, hop on over to Chrome, and paste the prompt right in here. So basically we're generating a 3D material, a sphere made of colored glass isolated on a black background. I'm going to go ahead and generate that. Now the initial results may not be exactly what we're looking. And Sean is asking, have you found any difference using black on white or white on black? So the structure itself, the image that I uploaded, this one here, typically not. But if you go ahead and change the background color in the prompt, then yes. So let me just white background. You might see some different results. I'm going to let that run back over here. Not exactly what we want. So I'm going to switch this over to photo, hyper realistic, but I'm also going to go under themes, I think, and turn on glass morphism. And we're going to generate one more time. And this time we should see something a little bit more similar to that material inside of the Photoshop document. Now, back over here, if I change it to white, and this really kind of shows you, it really doesn't matter what the background color is on your structure, as long as there is a nice contrast, right? So that Firefly can tell. But if you have a white background, you're going to see more shadows, you're going to see more, all sorts of different things. So it might influence the actual output itself if you change the color of the background inside of the prompt. There we go. Right? Now the lines are a little bit strange on this one. This one's not too bad, right? But definitely experiment with some material. So once you have a material that you really like, what you're able to do now is you can use that to influence your design. So I'm going to go black background one more time. Made of, and here, what you can do if you want, you can enter in, you know, made of colored glass, but sometimes you don't have to enter in anything. You can just put the letter P. Sometimes you don't even need that, right? But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go down to the style section, and under reference, I want to upload another image. I have a bunch of materials. I have a million different materials, and I have, one day I'm going to release these. Generating simultaneously. Yes, you can do that. You can have a bunch of different windows open, all generating at the same time. It's a bit chaotic, but it works. So I have this material here. I'm going to go and boop, pop it in there. I'm going to put the strength of this reference up to 100%. And then I'm going to turn on glass morphism again. Hope you're following. I'm moving fast. And then generate. Now, again, like I mentioned, you don't necessarily have to have the letter P because now it's pulling from your structure reference, or they changed it to composition reference now. So keep that in mind and definitely experiment. But we should see, ooh, now we're getting somewhere, right? Fancy. And just to kind of show you, if I just remove the letter P and just put made of glass, we should get some very similar results because, again, it's pulling from that composition reference. Let's see what happens. How's chat doing? Chat good? Everyone's good. Look at that. Now, I have noticed recently that there's some weirdness going on. I don't know if the model was changed. I don't know what's happening. But there's some weird lines and a lot of things going on. Maybe it's the hyper-realistic effect. I'm not 100% sure. But maybe the visual intensity is too high. Visual intensity, by the way, all the way at the left, the middle is a nice balance, but left will be more basic, simple. All the way at the right can definitely add some additional artifacts, artistic effects, things like that, but that's a little bit better. Again, still some strangeness going on. I'm going to bring that up to the team and see if something changed recently, but yeah, not fun. But anyways, the overall effect is fun. Once you find the right prompt, the structure reference, style reference, all sorts of things. And one more example, if I go back here, let's go to natural, just to kind of show you, we can do something very similar to what we did earlier, but this time it's going to be stone and moss and made of stone and moss. And we're going to generate one more time before moving on to our next example where we're going to be using shapes, almost like a logo, for our references. Let's see. And there we go. Oh, interesting. So I had the glass morphism effect still on, and it's actually putting, this is kind of cool actually. This was totally by accident. I forgot to turn it off, but we now have the letter P with stone and moss inside glass. All right, I'm going to experiment with this a little bit more later, but once I turn that off, you're going to see basically the same thing without the glass. Interesting. Is it on version 3? It should be. It sure is. Something's going on. Yeah. Oh, cool. Happy little accidents, right? All right. Like a terrarium or ice. Yeah. Ooh, I'm going to experiment some more with this. This is interesting. All right. Back over to Photoshop. I want to move down here. And we have a blank canvas. We're going to design out a very simple logo. Very simple, because we probably don't have time for a very complex logo. So I'm going to hop into this artboard. I'm going to grab, let's say, the ellipse tool and do something like that. We will maybe turn off the fill. Now, I know some of you are probably screaming at your computers. You should be designing logos in Illustrator. And you know what? You're probably right. But we're having fun in Photoshop today. So we're going to run with this. All right, so that looks okay. Now I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. We'll switch this to white. We don't need a fill. Whoops, that was affecting the thing. Okay, whatever. We'll do this, and then we'll change it here. White. Now again, I'm not worried about exporting this as a PNG with transparency, anything like that. So we're going to keep it. I'm just literally concerned about the shapes. And maybe I will draw out some guides very quickly. And then maybe with my pen tool, ooh, you know what? I forgot a guide. I forgot a few guides. There we go. Just to help guide me through this process. And I'll just do something like this. And I'm probably drawing in white, which is probably not the greatest idea in the world. Oh, I forgot another guide as well. But we are having fun. There we go. It's not perfect, but it'll do. And change this. Perfect. But I can always grab my direct selection tool and kind of finesse this into place. So we're just creating a logo, right? Nothing too fancy. It's not perfect. But there we go. What are the link to your new website? Do I have a website? Oh gosh, do I have a website? I don't think so. Do I have a website? I don't know. Clarify, Robert. I had a website at some point. All right, we have a logo. Fancy, right? Now, just like before, what we'd probably want to do is export this as a JPEG, a PNG, whatever. You don't have to worry about transparency as long as, this is an ugly logo, by the way, but as long as you have nice contrast between the logo and the background, right? Keep that in mind. And very similar to this. But if I hop over to Finder, this is essentially what we're going after. This is a much nicer looking logo than the one I just designed, but we're moving fast. Congrats on 100 million views. Thank you. Yeah, I've been working on my YouTube channel for 18 years. I'm getting old. Some of you probably weren't even born when I launched my YouTube channel. Do you do logo design? Clearly not. Does this look like logo design, Bruce? Anyways, back to where am I? Chrome. Let's go over here. Let's go back to text to image, and I'm gonna start just typing out, let's say, a logo made of stone on in a desert. Now, obviously, again, we're not going to get the results that we're looking for because it doesn't know what the logo is, doesn't know what our style looks like, it doesn't know a lot of things. So I'm curious to see what happens in this particular, and this is kind of cool. It's a little bit more artistic, not what I'm necessarily looking for. Switch it over to photo, switch it over to, actually, so in here, I have 4:3. In the example that I'm using, it's 3:4. So just choose the right aspect ratio that makes sense, and right? So in this case, it's gonna be 3:4. And I wanna make sure to upload as our composition reference. Boop, pop it in there. 100%. Let's turn on hyper realistic and go. So now what we should see similar results, but we should see it pulling from our composition reference, and we should see our logo as the stone structure. Marcy was saying, I was definitely born when he started using Photoshop. I've said before, I've been using it since version 2. Version 2, yes, before layers. I think I started with 2.5. It was in elementary school. They had an outdated version of Photoshop, and it didn't have layers. That kind of got me hooked. But look at that. We have our logo made of stone in a desert. This is kind of fancy. But now, just like before, we can start combining it with materials. Let's go back to our material. I'm afraid to go into my weird folder, but I have some weird, like, what is wrong with me? This is what I do in my free time. This is also what I do for work. I have issues. But anyways, let's say we wanted our logo to be covered in green slime. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scroll down here and pop this in as the strength or the style reference, 100%. A logo made of, or maybe a logo covered in green slime on a black background. Now, of course, I could have a different background. Yikes, LOL. I have issues. This is what I should make a book of all my weird materials. But look at this. That's fancy. Now, covered in and made of will probably give you very different results. Made of green slime. And we should see slightly different results, and also adding the glass morphism could also give you different results. But after this, I want to show you one more thing, not Photoshop related. Fancy. I like it. But I'm going to hop over to Project Neo. And if you haven't been using Project Neo, projectneo.adobe.com, a lot of fun, but I'm going to create a new design very quickly. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to show you how you can use Project Neo generations, or not generations, I should say, more just shapes. So if I add a sphere here, and Project Neo is a new 3D app we're developing. And we're trying to make 3D easy, but also trying to connect it to like Illustrator so you can export as SVGs and things like that. But we have a lot of cool options like blending, which kind of create these fun little blobs. And when you go ahead and add some color to these blobs, so maybe pink and purple and blue, you can kind of blend these together really nicely. I can change the background color because this green is just not it. Maybe white, right? So you can really go through and create these fun shapes just using, ooh, look at that. Blending and all sorts of fun stuff. There we go. Yep, this is available to everyone to try. But the point is, once you've gone through and created these fun shapes, you might get something that looks like this. I created this in Project Neo, which is really cool, but you can then bring this directly into Firefly, just like we have been doing with our other examples. So instead of the logo here, I can put that in there, and I can put, let's say, blobs made of, I don't know, made of what? Probably not that. Effects, no, let's go to elements. Ooh, maybe dripping gold. Maybe this one. This is fun. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try. We're going to have some fun. Made of gold on a black background. Sure. And I think this one was, I don't know what the aspect ratio of this one is, but let's try landscape. Let's see if that works. I should have probably figured that out beforehand. So fun. Ooh, chocolate. Do I have, I think I have chocolate. I think I have a folder, because of course I do, of food materials. Of course I have meat and coffee. Do I have chocolate? I have chocolate. I do have chocolate. Now, of course, you don't need to use materials for this, right? So if I just remove this material and made of dripping chocolate, this should be fun. Come to the dark side. What's the dark side? Oh, is that probably chocolate? Maybe. Let's see what happens. But of course, the materials can definitely help influence your ooh, right? And this was all started using a bunch of blobs created in Project Neo, exported, and now we have some fun chocolate. But of course, you can grab, let's say, a material like this, boop, pop it in there, and then go. So now it's going to look at that material, kind of those, folds and whatever going on in that particular chocolate. And it's going to use that to influence your designs. Let's see. And I think the aspect ratio is slightly different, which is why things are kind of cut off a little bit. There's something definitely going on with the recent, I don't know if they updated, but there's some weird artifacts happening that were not there before. Maybe turn off hyper realistic. Maybe it's that. I don't know. Let's try one more time. Nice blobs. Thank you. I've been having fun in Project Neo, creating blobs and all sorts of different things. Let me close that because my computer is going to explode if I have too much open. There we go. Well, you get the idea, right? Let's do one more. One more blob. Should we do a weird one? Let's do a weird one. Let's do... Here we go. Don't ask me. Don't ask questions. Just don't. Made of dripping cheese and teeth. I get paid to do this. This is weird. I have the best job, don't I? I'm going to probably do this during my events in Pittsburgh and Toronto and Vancouver. It's going to be weird. Yep. I have problems. Let's just do like one more normal one because we do have a little bit of time. This one's fine. This one's not weird. What is wrong with me? Barbara saying, come to... Barbara, I was in Nashville a few months ago, actually. We had a Create Now event over there. It was wonderful. I've never been to Nashville before, but I was only there for like 24 hours, and then I had to go to Memphis, actually. Great place, though. One day I want to go back and just actually see Nashville itself. But anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. It got weird very quickly. Maybe I'll post some of those strange cheese ones. on X. So follow me on X, because let's make that go viral and spread our weirdness all over the world. But anyways, we got more content coming up in just a few minutes. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you all next time.